Joining us is a local guy, and if you are privy and up on the Whelen Mod Tour, and one of my favorite races of the year and of the weekend at Loudon, New Hampshire, you always hear this guy's name. We are lucky to be joined by Woody Pitkat tonight on the show, who I believe was the 2015 Whelen Modified Tour champion. So,
Say what?
Say what? Woody, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you guys? I was listening to your sponsors. You have more sponsors than, I want to say, half the tracks in the country.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, and I'm sure you know trying to sell sponsorship for your car, just like we do. Yeah, it takes some time, but we're lucky to have a good cast of, sponsors joining us on the show. So let's jump right into things, Woody. For those who might not know you, first off, tell us how you caught the racing bug.
Yeah, so when I was born, I was kind of in a racing family. Both my uncles, Mark and Jeff Flurry, were racing dirt cars up in Lebanon Valley, New York State. So, I was obviously going to the racetrack right when I was born. And then, I grew up and lived in Stafford pretty much my whole life till I was, I guess, 34, 35. So really the only thing really to do, in the summer was to go to the racetrack. So that's kind of what we did. And go on Friday nights and kind of just, my uncle Mark did do some asphalt modified racing. Unfortunately, my grandfather had passed the year that I was born, so I never got to meet him. But my Uncle Jeff, it really hurt him, so he kind of stopped racing, and my Uncle Mark kept doing it until he, in 2007, he stepped back and became a lawyer. But he did some asphalt racing, and then I want to say kind of I remember, being, early teenagers, or early teenage, 12, 13. I remember going to the races and, kind of chasing the Modified Tour, and was a huge fan of Mike McLaughlin. He was my guy, Magic Shoes, and me and my mother would, go to a lot of the races and watch him and cheer him on at Stafford and Thompson and Riverside. And, then I was fortunate enough to meet a guy by the name of Ryan Pisacco. He was started racing at Stafford. His father was a sponsor of my Uncle Mark when he was racing at Lebanon Valley. And I pretty much hung out with him pretty much every day from, I don't know, the time I was probably 15 until, when I started high school. So I guess, maybe 13. I guess it was when I was still in middle school, I would say. And then I went to high school. He was in Stafford, and I went to a technical school in Willimantic, and we still, stayed friends. And he raced dare stocks at Stafford. I would support him. And then, he moved up to late models, and then I started at 16. I started racing a dare car down there, and I was fortunate enough to be friendly with Jimmy Peterson, who was a pretty big late model star back at that time, and he brought me in and, showed me the reins on what I needed to do to basically maintain a car, and, by nut and bolting and changing the fluids and all that. And he let me keep my dare car at his shop for, I want to say, for the year until we were able to turn my grandmother's shop around. And then I raced dare stocks for 2 years, 96 to 98, and then I moved up to late models. And I was pretty terrible the first couple years, and I was fortunate enough to go to a racing school down in St. Augustine, Florida, Finish Line Racing School, which actually I was there with Jamie McMurray, guy by the name of Jeff Malave, who was racing modifieds at Stafford, Brian Shue. So it was pretty cool to be there with some, pretty big names. And I feel like the school, it didn't teach you how to pass or anything like that, but it just taught you how to hit your marks every lap and be consistent, and you pretty much be consistent every lap, And after that, I came home and started that year. I want to say maybe 2000, I believe. It's been so long now, but I came out of there that year with a brand new car and pretty good sponsors. And I want to say I won. It was 2000 or 2001. I think it was 2001. is when I remember winning my first late model race. It was my 21st birthday.
Cool.
And then kind of just, went off that way. I never really pursued or thought much of being a modified driver. All those years when I was racing late models, which was basically, 98 to 2005, I was just a late model guy. I was sort of started hanging out around with Ted Christopher. I saw the Rocco boys. They were years younger than I was, but they were hanging out with him. And I just thought that would be a good thing to do, was to run around from track to track with him. Obviously, he was the king, and he was the best at what he did. So I admired what he did, and flew around with him and helped him from time to time. And then, I don't know, just one year I got a call. Actually, it was on Thanksgiving to drive a modified. So I want to say it was 2005 or 2006. I got an opportunity to drive an SK modified at Stafford with the DePisa brothers, Chris and Doug DePisa, and then kind of just rolled from there. I finished third in the points first year, running an SK with them, and then the following year we ran the Sizzler, and then we kind of went our separate ways. And then I had a sponsor of mine that sponsored me with my late model, David Rowe, the Davison Company. He was a huge supporter of mine. Saw that I didn't have a ride and wanted to buy me a car. He said that I was too good to be sitting in the stands. And so thankfully he bought me a car, and he had already had a car with Jeff Malave driving. And fortunate enough, I was able to be his teammate. And then we just kind of went off with there, and we ran a year, 1-2 races there. And then at the end of the year, the car that we had bought was a 2003 Stafford Championship SK car that Kerry Malone had won the championship with. And back then he had Jimmy Fuller as a crew chief. So at the end of that year, we had an opportunity to have Jimmy crew chief the car down in North Carolina. They were having the first ever SK modified North-South shootout race down in North Carolina. What the heck is a track now? I can't even think of it.
Well, one thing's for sure, that if you keep talking, we ain't going to have any more questions for you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I could go on and on and on. But,
no, this is what we wanted. You're good. You're good, Woody.
So, Chad, what do you got?
All right, so you have been dominant at Stafford for as long as I've been watching racing, and you're just dang good at it, man. What is it about that track that is awesome and that you love? And, man, you should be an SRX.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That would be definitely a huge, bucket list thing to do down there. I don't know. I've done it for so long. I love the fact that the turns 1 and 2 and turns 3 and 4 are two opposite corners. 1 and 2 is more of like a normal, kind of like a circle. Like if you were to look at, like a circle or whatever, it's kind of like an original, C of a circle. And then 3 and 4 is more of like a diamond, almost like like a top of a Christmas tree or like a piece of pizza, I guess, before you eat it.
Right.
So 1 and 2, the biggest thing is you got to get into 1 easy. A lot of new people that come to Stafford, they overdrive turn 1 because of the fact that turn 3, you can sail it down in there. And
then dive in the corner.
Yeah, you can drive it in hard, and you can kind of late apex it. You can wait and turn the car late, and then try to drive up off straight. Where 1 and 2, you can't do that. And once people do that in 3 and 4, they think they can do that in 1 and 2, and it screws them up. And I don't know. I've done it for so long now. It's kind of funny because I took a call yesterday or a text about where they asked me where the lift point was getting into turn 1. Like they almost wanted to rent the track and put like a cone or something out. And I couldn't even tell them, honestly. I mean, getting down into 3, you have the opening to the pit gate, so you can kind of judge that off of the pit gate opening. But turn 1, I don't know if there's a light. I'm sure there's a light pole or, before the opening to the gate where you will go off the track. But I've done it for so long, for so many years now. It's just trained in my brain.
Yeah, second nature to you now.
I want to know who texted him.
So, and just the fact that their roots are, they're an awesome family. What they're doing down there is second to none. I mean, you see all the improvements they're doing this year. It's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I can't wait to go to the Sizzler.
I mentioned that on the show last week, yep.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that what they're doing down there, they definitely have the best facility in the country, if not maybe everywhere in the world.
Absolutely.
But what you see them doing, and obviously having their sons down there helping, that place is in a good state of mind for years to come. And the way that they do improvements every year is just unbelievable. And obviously it's my hometown. I grew up there, so when I go there, I don't race there weekly like I have in the past. So when I do go there, it's just so fun to be there and see people that I haven't seen, in over a year. So always, like, when I go to the autograph session, it takes me 45 minutes to get back to my car. Just what they got going on there, and obviously racing there, going there and watching, obviously going there and helping Ryan back in the day. And Michael Bennett was him and his brother. We have a really good relationship, family relationships, even going back to before we raced. He helped me on my late model, and then it's cool to see, what he has done from, working on my car to racing as well. And, just everybody. You always wanted to have those bragging rights. I remember racing the late models because you had the Ryan Pizzacos, the Michael Bennetts, the Tommy Butlers, and then obviously with the SKs, you had the Willie Hardys back then, and, the Todd Owens and the Dan Averys and everybody, Tommy Bowles, everybody that was close. So you always wanted to be able to go home with, finishing ahead of them or winning a race, just so you could have those bragging rights throughout the week. So
right, and when talking about bragging rights, you got some a hockey championship underneath your belt from this past winter. Congratulate you on that. You came down to the Turtle and saw me.
Let's go.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that was my first year being a captain, and it was kind of funny because anything that I do, it's 100%, and I take it, very serious. And I remember, leading up to the draft, and we have like a little evaluation skate before the draft, just so you can see everybody, see the skaters and see what they're doing and stuff. And I had written down all this stuff and picked out all this and did all this, and then
it all went to hell.
The guy that was running the league was like, "Oh, why'd you do all that?" I sent him a picture, and he's like, "Oh, I have all that stuff printed out." I wasted literally 3 days in the back room. I have this little room that I call like my little office, and my wife's like, "What are you doing back there?" And I told her, and I'm like, "Just, I said, once I get through the draft, then don't worry, it'll be back to normal." And it's like I wasted like 6 hours for 3 days in a row doing all this stuff and going through all this, writing all this down on what this player was, what this person was, and this and that. And then I get to the evaluation game, and he had like all these printouts already done.
Nice.
All right, Woody, it's Ben here. It's Ben here. I did a little research before this interview, and is it true you raced at the Battle of the Beach at Daytona in 2013?
Yes, I did.
What was that weekend like? Because that is something that I miss. I wish they had that every single year, and it was on TV every single year. What was something you really took away from that weekend?
That was another place where the biggest thing was because the corners were so kind of like, again, the corners were like a diamond, basically. They were like a top of a Christmas tree. They were bad. You had flat straightaways, wicked sharp corners. That was the biggest thing in the race, was try not to the overdrive the corners. Don't try to cook the car. It's kind of funny because now, if you think about it, full circle with what had just happened with Kyle Larson and Ryan Preece and stuff like that. So the year that I was there, Kyle Larson, that was the first time I ever heard of him. He was driving for, I want to say it was Bono. It was that blue and neon yellow 7 car that Ryan Newman had driven a couple times after that.
Okay.
So Kyle was in that car, and I started in the back, and actually Steve Park was behind me. And towards the end of the race, after our pit stop, we started, we were coming up through. I wouldn't say Steve was following me, but I know we were kind of together coming up through. and we had a late restart there, and I started, I want to say 6th, and I think Kyle was 4th, and he missed a shift, and I wheel hopped him, and then I, lifted for him, and I got run over from behind, and that was it. It ruined my day. Oh. And I just thought, okay, so this is the guy that just got into this big late model powwow because something happened in the late model race where he punted somebody out of the way in the late model race. And then he came into the modifieds, and he missed a shift in front of me, and it's like, this is supposed to be some big up-and-coming star, and he can't even shift his car. So that is definitely something that I'll never forget. And then the other thing, too, is, so we went down there, that was, we were going to race New Smyrna that week, too, as well, so we had brought 2 cars, and the car that we were running at that race at Daytona, we went to shake it down at New Smyrna, and we couldn't get the start. And fortunate enough, my buddy at the time, Mike Royce, was with me, and he does HVAC and heat and ventilation and a little electrical work, and he had to pretty much rewire the whole race car at New Smyrna one day. And if he didn't do that, we wouldn't have been able to use that car. We would have had to use our primary car that we were going to run at New Smyrna. So hats off to him for taking the time to rewire that car. So
gotta love your good friends. You gotta love them good friends. Right. They come in handy.
So yep, and then we went to New Smyrna and we won 3 out of the 6 races that year, and we won the championship. So
batting 500,
beautiful.
It was an awesome week down there.
So Woody, what do you got on the schedule this season coming up for 2023?
So I'm going to run those open modified races again at Stafford. All the open modified races with Doug Dunleavy with the 88. Then we have another car that we're going to run. We're going to try to run for the Tri-Track Championship with Doug.
Nice.
And then I got back together with Stan Mertz. He says that this year's his last year. I feel he's going to pull Tom Brady, but he says he's not. But his ultimate goal was to always be a Whelen Modified Tour car owner. So he's turned his car over to run the Whelen Modified Tour. And we're going to run, I want to say, about 8 races on the Whelen Modified Tour.
Nice.
With him. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be, a pretty big stepping stone, and I think we're gonna kind of surprise some people with the way we're going to run, because I think a lot of people are going to, looking at Stan, he's more of a low buck guy, does it out of his own pocket. He's got a little garage over in Grafton that's about as big as a shed, I say to him, but obviously, it doesn't matter what the garage size is,
Yeah, hey, we got a shed sponsor over here, so that's okay.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we get it.
There you go. And that's where it's won. That's where these races are won, or finishes, good finishes are won, is at the race shop. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we're going to do the icebreaker that we just ran, and we'll probably do the World Series, and that's pretty much about it. I mean, that's still about 28 to 30 races. I'm going to run a race this coming weekend up at Loudon, the Northeast Classic there. I'm going to run for a guy, David Weir, that's a sponsor of mine, that has a modified that Andy Shaw used to always drive.
Okay.
So he had asked me to drive that this weekend coming up, so we're going to do that. And then we're going to, obviously, after Loudon, we're going to start preparing to go down there and try to kick ass at the Spring Sizzler.
Cool.
Yeah, and I will be there.
Yeah, we'll be there. So this goes into my next question. So we obviously were at the Napa Fall Final. We saw what happened, you and Ronnie. All right. Are you guys cool now? I mean, he just won the icebreaker. You got to beat him at the Sizzler, man. Are you guys cool? You guys still talking? What is it? Because, I think he did you dirty.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. If you hold a grudge over something that had happened, last year, it's never gonna end well. And I don't look at it like that. I'm fortunate enough to have great teams and great car owners and great backing, and I'm not going to get into some match with wrecking my own race car, which really ain't my race car. It's my car owner's race car.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would never do that. I've never been that type of person since day one to
hold a grudge,
retaliate like that. I have talked to Ronnie obviously since then. I think we both know, and he knows that it was just a heat of the moment type thing, and it was the wrong thing that he did. And I've definitely, I think pretty much anybody in racing has done things that they regret or done wrong, and I'm not going to hold that to them anymore. It's a new year.
New season.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It's a new year. To me, everybody's on, level playing field, and it is what it is. I mean, if you look at last year, all the open races, it seemed like me and him were pretty much together. Every race
it's funny how that happens at a racetrack.
Yeah,
you just keep the same guy every week, either on your bumper or right off your front end.
Yep. So
yeah, and it just shows that we're both, we're both passionate, we're both good drivers because we're both usually battling for the win. So,
absolutely,
I don't see anything of that to change. I've driven for Adam Scavera and that team that he drives for, and I have, no ill feelings towards them, and I look forward to just going there and concentrating on my own team and worrying about myself. So
totally got you.
So, Woody, as we've been talking with you, up against a break here. Quickly, who do you got on the race car? You just want to mention any sponsors, team owners, or friends that help you out?
Yeah, obviously Doug Dunleavy is the biggest supporter of mine. On my 88 team. Obviously, Cam McDermott is the crew chief, but also maintains the car. Him and his father. He has McDermott Motorsports. A little side job that they do is rear ends, transmissions, and steering racks, and anything like that. I got Kenyon Landscaping, Holmes Excavations on there. The list goes on and on. Like Towboat US, Robert Yates Racing, LFR Chassis, Napa Tallinn, Brookfield Glass, got what the heck's the guy? To Jerry's Model Cars is on there, Green Construction. Like I said, the list just goes on and on and on. Obviously anybody that I missed, just look at the car. They know who they are. Alpine Star, Alpine Stars. Alpine Trees has jumped on this past year, halfway through the season. Like I said, Green Construction, Ty Cooper Landscaping, Bobby Weber up in Star, David Weir, KDW Landscaping. Like I said, there's just a ton of people. I'm so fortunate to have everybody that helps me, and I also, they help me not only with my 88, but some of those guys help me on my 16 too with Stan Mertz. And obviously, like I said, Stan Mertz is, pretty much the big backer of his own team. He's got Coop and Lumber on that car. That's a big supporter of mine. Just like I said, anybody I miss, I'm sorry. But I thank everybody for everything that they do for me. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be able to be doing what I do.
Excellent. So. Woody, appreciate you joining us. Woody Pitkat, our guest here on the In the Turn interview this week. We'll probably have you back because I think we can probably fill up a whole nother show with you for
definitely.
sure.
And you're the pick for us to win the Sizzler. So
absolutely, Woody. Thanks for coming on.
And we'll talk to you soon.